I feel completely uncomfortable.
This looks a little different to our
Mate,
normal.
I've spent a lot of time and money on a studio, and you're like, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, it was
good.
For a good reason, though. For a good reason.
No, it is, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of it when our guest arrives. But we are at Optus to do the show with the CEO. But we thought we'd go to the effort of attempting to bring the video show in a remote sense. Just for the record, I ain't bringing all this gear with me to Berlin or San Francisco.
We can share it. I can bring some and you bring some.
It's just a lot.
Between us, we could do it.
We could. Also, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm already a fan of the handheld mic.
Oh, okay.
We could do this.
Get two blokes little
we could
windsocks.
We could do this at the studio as well.
Because
think about it, we could be sitting back in those chairs instead of leaning forward. What are your thoughts?
That's true. It might just change my whole demeanour of the whole show. Just relaxing.
You might actually enjoy it. Is what you're saying?
I might engage a bit more. You never know.
Maybe we should do the movie this way. We won't fall asleep as much.
Jeez, okay.
What's the movie this week?
It is
Volcano.
It's Volcano.
I can't wait to find out what it is the week after.
Yeah, the week after. I've got a little surprise for you. The week after.
We should give a great shout out to Arlo and Netgear, long-time supporters of the show, and because we're going to just sit down with Steve, we're just going to go hard through. So if you are looking for home networking, Netgear's got you covered. So it doesn't matter whether you're an Optus customer, a Telstra customer, Aussie Broadband, whatever speed you're getting, especially if you're someone, and you're a Two Blokes listener, you're probably on the 100 meg plan or more.
And then some.
If you're frothing for the speed update that comes in September.
You want to make the most of that, hey?
You want to make the most of it. So get yourself a better class of Wi-Fi in your home. A mesh system will do that for you. Netgear's got you covered with their Orbi range, and there's an Orbi for everyone. Different. It's kind of a good, better, best, but also price points, number of devices connected, little intricacies like tri-band Wi-Fi versus dual band, all the different things that come into it. Wi-Fi 7 versus Wi-Fi 6 or 6E.
Number of devices. Yeah.
Very important to look at what's actually happening in your home before you make the commitment to any sort of Wi-Fi network. So if you are looking to upgrade and you're getting excited about the speed boost from the NBN on your telco, get yourself a better Wi-Fi system. Check out our mates at netgear.com.au. And while you're shopping online, Stephen.
Yeah, surely you can check out Arlo. There are other great sponsors, great supporters. And if you want to get into your home security, have a bit of more peace of mind, then if you haven't already started, it's a great place to start with Arlo for your outdoor security cameras, even your indoor security cameras. They've got their connected video doorbells and also their wired floodlights as well.
Floodlight, man. That has become my number one go-to.
And you know what? I have the cameras running all the time, so I can see if there's a package being delivered. I can see if there's someone ringing my doorbell. I can answer that from anywhere in the world, basically. So having the Arlo secure plan to go on top of the cameras too allows you to have
recognition.
30
Amanda
days of
was
stored video.
At home. Good to see she's at home still, not out with whoever.
So you got person. So we recognise as our family because we put their faces and we set it up that way. But
don't forget
person, package, vehicles, animals.
Cars. You can name it. So my cars are called Kevin for the Kia and Cooper. We just call it Cooper in the end.
Yep.
So the car will say Kevin recognised.
There you go.
And it's like there it is. Arlo knows.
Big Kev's
arrived. Big Kev's arrived. Big Kev. Big Kev.
But yeah, I do.
Anyway, sorry, Arlo.com.
Arlo.com. Yeah, if you want to, even if you've already got cameras, you can always add more. So you want to maybe cover a bit more of your property or your holiday house or whatever you want to keep an eye on.
Do a bit of Tom Cruise work, Mission Impossible, and scope the joint out. Where are the black spots or blind spots in your cameras, and fill that blind spot with another camera.
Absolutely. So check them all out. The whole range is at arlo.com.
You know who's got security cameras?
Carl.
Optus.
Stefanovic.
No, I reckon Optus has got a lot of security cameras.
I bet.
Do you reckon they've got people detection?
About 8 of them.
Because a couple of years ago,
yeah, do you reckon they're
listening? Us coming in here
to us right now, you reckon?
No, that's what I was going to say.
Didn't they say they bring their customers in here?
Our relationship has changed.
Remember, we've done this movie on the movie podcast. Remember Rising Sun?
I don't.
Remember with Sean Connery, Wesley Snipes, the Japanese corporation, there's a murder.
Yeah.
And do you remember the scene where they were in the boardroom and then in the background they're saying...
Doesn't other stuff happen in that boardroom as well?
Yes, but they're listening to their little quiet conversation saying, they're talking about this and this.
I'm pretty sure they're listening outside the door right now.
They got a little... Do you reckon they got a glass to the door?
Yeah, I mean, you got to say, I don't think 3 years ago we would have thought we'd be doing this.
Well, no. Well,
we'll cover that with the boss. We'll
talk
about how this has come about.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to be here. It's good. We're just for the techie nerds. Yeah. We are testing the Final Cut camera.
Cut camera.
So on an iPad, I've got
all
Final
iPhones
Cut
up here.
running.
Yep.
iPhones and the Final Cut camera app, and that allows them all to synchronize. So when I'm going to my mum's this weekend, if it's an hour-long podcast, I can sit there and basically buttons 1, 2, and 3 on the keyboard can be camera 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And so I can just watch it back and just go camera shot 2, shot 1.
Oh, right. So you got to do that manually.
Yeah.
There's no plug-in for that yet, mate?
No, there isn't. But also because I guess you could theoretically, but I wanted to use the system from start to finish. So it'll be pretty cool.
Okay.
But that's what it is. And
well, mate, so this is possible. We could do this in Berlin, mate. Like, I'll bring a tripod, you'll bring a tripod. You'll have more than one tripod there. You love a tripod. You love aiming cameras at yourself whenever you travel. So you're all good. I'll have my one
That's
I bring.
That's your best burn in a long time. You love... Mate, hang on. Flick through Stephen's Instagram. The bloke takes more selfies than an influencer.
Mate, I only take selfies when I was on holidays with my wife.
No, you take selfies at an event. Yeah, you take a selfie out the front of the Samsung event.
Why keep this from people, mate? They deserve to see this. Don't you reckon?
I'm not sure. I really don't.
Well,
I really don't know that to be true.
Until someone tells me otherwise,
All right. Well, we're here for one reason and one reason only. So
that's it.
Let's get
on with it.
Welcome to Two Blokes Talking Tech.
Not a bad price.
With Trevor Long from EFTM.com.
Really handy device.
And Stephen Fenech from techguide.com.au.
And as we said, Stephen, we are live at Optus. Episode 696, thanks to our great mates at Arlo and Netgear. And we are in the bunker of Optus headquarters, Stephen. Good to be with you, mate. But we are here with the boss, Stephen. It's too many Stephens for me. I was talking to you. We hadn't introduced him yet.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Skip me and gone to the other Stephen.
Don't get ahead of yourself, mate. Don't get ahead of yourself. In 14 and a half years, we've talked about, I think, from memory, 3 people potentially coming on the show, maybe 4.
As the third bloke, yes.
Tim Cook we've talked about as a joke, but I don't think we formally actually requested it. I think we have mentioned prime ministers in the past.
Yes.
And that Brad Pitt was mentioned at one point. Only because Brad Pitt's brother was on.
I got his brother on my one.
He was doing the rounds for Mace?
Virgin Mobile.
Yeah, Virgin Mobile. Yep. So Brad Pitt got a mention.
He was on the Tech Guide podcast. I got him
as one level up. But a couple of years ago, we did extend an invitation to the Optus CEO.
Yes.
It didn't happen.
No.
But there's a new Optus CEO, and he's with us now. Stephen Rue, great to be with us, mate.
Hi, thank you. Lovely to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. It's I thought we'd separate this pretty easily into 3 sections. And you may not love the labelling of the rundown, but we're very simple people. I needed alliteration. We're going to cover the fail, we're going to cover the future, and then we'll have some fun because we have a lot of like-minded interests. So let's rewind a little bit. You're NBN CEO and you're looking in from the outside. And there's a fair few dramas going on here. There's a huge data breach. It affects the business. It affects the brand. What have you learnt from both your observations back then, looking outside in, and now having come in and, I guess, assessed the business and how it's recovered from that?
Yeah, well, a whole pile of things. I mean, at the time, I obviously offered my help to the people at Optus to see if in my role at NBN, if there's anything I could do. But I guess what I kind of knew, but I've learned even more, is how important Optus actually is to the whole industry and how the consumers want Optus to be successful. Regulators, government, we were set up to be a competitor in the industry to provide what I call real choice. And I learned through that process that it's important for Optus to be successful and to be a good number 2 a good challenger in the telco market, and consumers want us to be successful. So I guess I'm determined to make that happen.
So at that time, you said you reached out to maybe offer a helping hand. So how do you think then, looking back, did they accept that help, or how did they move forward from that point?
Yeah, well, it turned out there wasn't actually that much I could do other than offer some words of encouragement, I guess, to the team at the time. But again, what I've learned is that it's really important for us to move on from that, to be able to ensure that we invest in the areas that matter most, to ensure that we really truly put customers at the front of what we do, which means having a business that is secure, that is resilient, that we put the investment in the places where we need to be, that we have the structures and organizations to focus on foundations and to really in doing that, make sure that we provide a good experience to our customers and also to our employees, of course.
Because there's two big parts of that, and you mentioned them both, security and customer, right? So from a security perspective, I think it's pretty obvious the business is probably locked down and there's new protocols. It would be very easy to just rattle off a bunch of things that the business is doing differently today. But is it safe to say that you've still got work to do? Because that stuff doesn't happen overnight.
I think, unfortunately, in security, there's always work to do, Trevor, and that's the challenge with security. You just the world moves on, and you've just got to make sure that it's forefront of what you think, what you do, that you've got the right, again, structures and processes and capabilities. But you're looking out and seeing what's happening in the world and making sure that security actually is at the forefront. It's important for actually the infrastructure of Australia, and so obviously important for our own business as well. So work never ever finishes. I mean, in fact, one of the things that I've done is appoint a new chief security and risk officer who's a very experienced person in the industry, and have him directly report to me. I mean, that sends a lot of not just signals, but actually shows the importance that I place in ensuring that we stay with the game and continue to invest, because you're never finished.
You mentioned the investment in security, but let's fast forward a little bit to the outage. And that wasn't really a security issue; it was an operational issue.
Yeah.
So how did you view that? And have there been changes implemented by yourself or your predecessor since that?
Yeah, there was changes implemented in terms of obviously new personnel, and we've got a new CTO, Tony Baird, who's very experienced, as actually a terrific individual. We have made sure that we've invested in the areas that we need to invest in, but again, it's the same answer to Trevor's earlier question. It never stops. You've got to make sure your single points of failure, your network and your IT systems, in fact, are completely resilient, and continue that on. And things like weather events, for example, you're only going to get worse, and making sure that we again invest in the right areas, but also we have the relationships into if you think about weather events, into state governments, into police forces, but also into regulators and governments, so that you have a two-way conversation at all times, not just at the time when you may have a serious weather issue. So again, Steve, it's the same thing, investing in the areas that matter, and that has been happening and continues to happen.
Does the very nature of an outage like that, I think there's no telco that would ever say we're free from outages. Like you just can't. No bank's going to say FPOS won't go down, or their payment systems. You can't guarantee it, can you? But it's all about limiting the scale potentially, because that was a scale which we'd never seen before. And I think one of the interesting learnings, if I think most of us from the outside looking in at that time, was just the fact that your staff and you have got to have SIM cards from other networks, because if your network goes down, you've got to be able to communicate. It's interesting, little learnings like that who would have thought of that? I wouldn't have.
I think there's a few things. There's obviously investing, continue to invest, but there's also making sure that you have recovery processes, and that gets into when if there's an issue in an IT system, that you have an easy recovery process. The sort of thing you talked about, alternate SIM cards, is exactly that, having a recovery process to do it, so that issues if they arise, get limited, but also that you can fast recover, and that you communicate well about what's happening and how it and going forward what you're doing.
Did the industry learn as much as Optus did from that? Because we had O issues. Obviously, you just had the severity of the network issues and the time it took. Do you think the entire industry looked at that event, and probably your competitors put into place similar strategies because they might have had the same risk?
Well, you need to ask them. I certainly know that at NBN we certainly made sure that we it was a point that we looked at resilience again of networks at that time, because clearly a wholesale broadband network across the country, people are relying on us. They're working from home, as they're educating, as they're doing healthcare, etc. But it's not just; it's all around the world. We all learn from what happens, and apply those lessons all the time.
So when it was time for you to, obviously you were announced as a new CEO. So at that time, What was your thought process accepting the job as the boss of Optus after all that had happened? Were you? I know you're up for a challenge. You've had some roles in your previous roles where you've had some pretty big issues to face. So, did you view this new role as a challenge, or how did you see it?
I saw it as a huge opportunity, actually, and I mean that genuinely. A lot of people say challenges, opportunities. I saw it as a real opportunity. I mean, I've been in the telco industry for 10 years when I at NBN 6 as the chief executive, and I realised how important through that telecommunication services are to people. People in telecommunications like talking about technical things, but actually what does telco provide for people? It provides health, it provides education, people can run businesses, people can connect with families, and people in regional and rural Australia can have the ability to live there essentially. Productivity for business and so on. So Optus is a really, as I said right up front, a really important part of the telecommunication industry, but actually the infrastructure of Australia. So for me, I saw it as it's the right time for me to move on from NBN. We had built a network, we'd moved it into an operating business. We had done various we'd done a special access undertaking with NBN with the industry. We'd raised the money we needed to do to fund the business, and we were starting to upgrade at scale the network, both the fixed wireless network, but also moving on to high speed, not the cable network, but also fibre network. So for me, the Optus opportunity was to hopefully contribute to an organisation that was set up, the name Optus, up for us, choice, set up for choice in the industry, and choice in the industry is good for the industry, but it's also clearly more so good for consumers.
It's funny you talk about the origins
so the opportunity
of the business
is huge.
That way.
Yeah.
Because the yes, I've often talked about, I remember very clearly, it was it 98, somewhere around then, when there was essentially a ballot. It was your ability to tick a box and say yes. Every household could make this choice, and that's where the yes comes from. And that kind of brings me back to the customer. So at NBN...
Can I just tell you a story on that for you?
Yeah, go for
it. I arrived in Australia in 1991. I'm obviously born in Ireland. You may want to tease me about that later. I don't know. Maybe that's the fun bit. But when I came to Australia, it was very expensive to ring my parents, and I could not afford to ring them very often because my wife also was born in Ireland, so she was ringing her family. It was expensive. Along comes the opportunity with Optus, and it was cheaper. And suddenly I was able to ring more often, and that's the choice I'm talking about. The yes, if you like, that you're talking about. Sorry, I interrupted.
But you come from so NBN is a wholesale business. You don't interact with customers other than sending crews to dig trenches and those kind of things. And then you come to a business where customer needs to be number one, because my harshest criticism and our harshest criticism, especially during the data breach, was customer. I think the business failed their customers in communication in nearly every single way. And I mentioned this to you privately. The 10,000 people whose details were published on the internet, I still don't think they ever got contacted by, it's too late now, but I think back in the day, no one picked up the phone and just said, we're sorry, and is there anything we can do? It was such a simple thing to me that even if you took 100 executives, and you probably got lots of managers, and just said, can you all call 20 people today and 20 people tomorrow? It just felt like such an easy thing. You've talked about a focus on security and putting in security management. Do you have a big new focus on customer as well? Because I think that's just as important.
So you start off by saying NBN was a wholesaler and didn't focus on customers. I didn't contact customers. I did not have that view at all.
Right.
My view was that we were providing services to people in homes and businesses. Yes, with a retailer, but we had to have customer in mind and how we thought about it. So, for example, I never liked missed appointments to be as a percentage, because what does a percentage mean? What I used to say to the team is, how many people have we left waiting for us to turn up? Because that's a much better metric. Yep. So I've always thought about the business at NBN, I've always thought about the customers as the people in the homes. So it's exactly the same. Obviously, with at Optus, clearly there's, as you said, a direct billing and a direct relationship with customers. So how do I think about it? One of the things that we did when I not long after I started was to define what was the purpose of Optus. And we talked about delivering real choice, not any choice, real choice. But how? By championing the customer. So it's got to be about customers. So, my view on this is that when we think about our network, it's got to be about the experience people have to do what they want to do. In other words, whether it be driving a car, whether around from A to B, they want to talk to people, or whether it be the healthcare, whatever it may be. When I think about when people go into a retail store, how we turn up in retail stores is really important.
Yep.
How our apps show up and how we deal with people in call centres are really important. In terms of that is what customers experience. Now we won't be perfect overnight. No one is, but I am determined that in the next few years we move forward to really, really, really seriously, genuinely thinking about customers. And as I always say to people, what does that mean? It means having an emotional connection with customers. So in other words, how do I feel if my service isn't working? Or how do I feel when I'm in a store and I'm trying to buy something? And it's the emotions that people feel is what matters. How do I feel when I'm trying to watch a sports event? And it's obviously through a broadband experience. Yeah. How does that make me feel? Rather than metrics, it's obviously metrics measure it, but it's the emotion that matters to me. So when I think about customers and interaction, I think about emotional connection with people and putting ourselves genuinely in their shoes, and that's what I want our people to do.
Can we just backtrack a little? When you accepted the job at Optus, and it was some months before you actually took up the post.
Yeah.
When you put your feet behind the desk for the first time, what sort of shape was the company in? Was it good, better? Was it what you expected? Were there any surprises?
There was. I knew Optus really, really well. I knew Optus when I was working at News Corp, but I also knew Optus clearly even more so from my role at NBN. So, and I knew many people who were in Optus or who used to be in Optus. So there weren't really that many surprises for me, other than the welcome I got was extraordinary. There was this welcome to Optus. The people at Optus are remarkably welcoming, friendly, good people who want to come into work every day and do the right thing. But obviously, there are things that I've needed to do. I mean, I arrived when we had the unconscionable conduct issue from the ACCC, which you haven't asked me about yet, but I preempted before you did. And so clearly, but again, I looked at that as what do we need to do as a whole of business thing. Yeah. So in fact, to be perfectly honest with you, my first few days was around setting up new processes, in terms of what are we doing with our sales processes, what are we doing in terms of remediation of customers, what are we doing in terms of interactions with retailers, and then looking at making some fast changes actually to our structures and some people to ensure that we're able to address those issues as a whole of business, not just a small symptom, but a whole of business.
And I guess that's a process, isn't it?
Nothing was terribly surprising to me.
Right. And it's still I'd say that nothing is ever finished, isn't it? It's still in motion at the moment.
So I'm a real believer in ensuring that you have good processes in an organisation. It's good for employee experience in terms employees then are able to provide the customer experience I talked about earlier. But it's also good to make sure that an organisation can foundations operate well, then the customers actually see that over time. So process management is process, end-to-end process delivery, I call it, to me is a really important thing that we're putting in place.
Well, before we move on from the past, you've obviously got baggage with the business. There's scars essentially with the business that you're constantly addressing, whether it's through the ACCC. We've had the Office of Information Commissioner looking at legal threats and things over the data breach. I mean, firstly on that, and just for your reference, this conversation won't go to air for another 6 or 7 days. So just to address that, how does that sit with the business? Is that expected? And is that just something you have to work through?
Look, it is expected. I mean, it's obviously an historical thing that was fully expected that clearly dates back to 2022. But again, the way that you are asking me the questions, I think differently. There's a real opportunity for Optus to be a really customer-focused, really customer-focused organisation that can provide real choice to the community. And my job is, there's obviously things from the past to deal with, but my job is to ensure the company is extremely well set up to deliver the very promise that it was set up in the 90s to do, and be really crucial part of the Australian telecommunication, but more broadly infrastructure landscape.
Is it hard to be the guy that has to front up and say we're sorry and essentially take responsibility for stuff that you had no influence over, but it's now your job? I think
you recognise in jobs like mine that is something. And not only that I need to do, that's something I want to do, because as the face of the organisation, it was very important for me to say that the company is sorry for what happened, and we should have been sorry, and we are, and that's why I fronted up. Look, I've fronted up to many things over many years, so it's something you've got to do in roles like mine, but I was pleased, not pleased, I was happy to do so, if you understand what I mean.
We've talked about the business overall. I mean, I think there was some talk about a quarterly drop in custom numbers and stuff, like maybe straight after one or two of the incidents. But overall, the business has weathered that storm and that's pretty well.
And that's the point I was making. People want Optus to be successful, and I'm determined to ensure that we deliver to people's desire for Optus to be successful. In terms of what you're saying, Trevor, I mean, we did grow our subscribers last year. I mean, some of that was before my time, some of that was after my time, but we grew our subscriber base. I won't take credit, but I'm pleased for that to be.
Trevor would have.
100% would have. You got to look at the numbers. It's metrics.
So we grew up subscribers, and our if you just want to look at financials, our financials grew last year. They're not, I want them to be obviously much better going forward. But we did grow our subscriber base, and we did have a lift of more than 50% growth in earnings last year. So the company's weathered, but we're going to be better again. We need to be, and we will be.
Well, let's look to the future, Steve.
Yes, shall we? Well, my first question is one of the things that's happened since you've taken over is you've left the Premier League behind.
Yeah.
And I understand you said, I think we said at our dinner, you said you don't want to be an entertainment company, you're a telecommunications company. So is that the main reason why you've decided to hand off the Premier League rights?
Look, that was if I could just say, that was a really, really difficult a difficult thing in some ways, because I'm a huge football fan.
Yeah.
You may ask me about rugby league in the future. You probably will ask me about rugby league.
I've got a few questions about that.
I thought you might. But my grandmother was born in the north of England. My grandfather, believe it or not, fought in World War I. And my childhood memories is about many hours I spent with my grandfather. When my grandmother died, he came to live with us. And he was a huge Liverpool fan. And so, of course, being the rebel I am, I supported Everton. And so we used to spend many hours listening to, in fact, his Blue Radio, listening to BBC and listening to the coverage of what wasn't the Premier League in those days, but First Division football was called. So I watch many Everton games to this day, and so suddenly I'm the CEO of an organisation that owns the Premier League rights. You can imagine how exciting that is to me. But but at the end of the day, what we have to do as an organisation is to be a very good telco and to simplify our business. So whether it be simplifying products, but in this case simplifying down what we do, and the Premier League, therefore, was a decision I took that was best to have sit well in another organisation. So emotionally, it was difficult. It was the right thing for the company to do, and we can again simplify our business and go back to being a really great telecommunication challenger in the marketplace.
And as a telco, and we've talked about this a bit privately, but one of the challenges in the industry is that there's a cost of living crisis people talk about all the time. The cost of mobile plans go up, CPI, whatever style of price rises you want to put in place. But there's this feeling that the big three, and you can only talk for Optus, but that the big three don't want the customers who don't have $60 a month or $55 a month or whatever your entry price might be. Those other customers, they feel like they're being driven away to other brands. You might own the other brands, or they might be NBNO of yours, but how do you explain that to customers who think, why don't the big telcos want me if I've only got $20 a month or $30 a month?
I think you've got to very clearly segment your business and make sure that you have brands that attract the pieces of the market that you want to challenge in. So therefore, you got to look at your product range, but also your brands, and ensure that you do have a range of products that go across the market, all the way from people who want high data usage, you want to bundle it with the device, through to students or people who are seeing cost of living crisis and therefore want to have reduction in so many other things, many parts of their lives. So for me, it's a case of ensuring that we're very clear what our brands are, what they stand for, what their personas are. You segment your customer base well, and you build products that sit across the suite of the community. It's so rather than saying we're chasing away customers, actually the opposite. It's ensuring that you have brands and products that attract people, all ranges of the products for all, different parts of the Australian community.
You speak of your customers, and often your customers talk to us. They ask us questions, and one of the biggest things I get asked is about global roaming.
Yep.
It'd be every day without fail. I get 2 or 3 emails from a reader saying, I'm travelling overseas. What do I do with my SIM? And often it's a case of buying a travel SIM because it's too expensive to take their Australian SIM. I see that as an opportunity. There's so much demand for being able to hang on to your Australian number when you travel. Is that something that Optus is looking at? And because Vodafone have a great $5 a day roaming plan where you use all your own data.
So do we.
But not for $5. $5 a day?
$5.
Yeah,
okay, but there's a limit on the data though. Yeah.
Well, I've as you can imagine, my job, I travel, and I find that actually that you say there's a limit, but I have actually never hit that limit. But if you do, one thing that we do is make sure that we send messages to people. In fact, I've received them. You're halfway through, so ensure that people know. The last thing that consumers want is to arrive back home and suddenly have this bill that they went.
They were great stories on a current affair back in the day. $40,000 bills and stuff.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, we love those.
I got one of those once when my daughter. I didn't realise it, but she was playing games for 2 weeks in
Good
America.
Times.
Yeah, it was good times. But it was an interesting conversation when we got home, but never mind.
Yeah.
But,
is there a little bit of reflection required from all of us, from the nation, about how maybe much better mobiles are today overall? Roaming, we've just talked about how we used to have bill shock, and then I was just thinking, you go back to the origins of Optus. I can remember having an Optus mobile plan and having a $600 bill one month because I was working an event around the country. You just don't have that anymore.
So one of the things I was going to say earlier around pricing of telecommunications more generally is if you think about the industry, it's gone from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5G, but the capabilities have gone through the roof. The devices, clearly capabilities, or what people use in our homes, the massive splurge in what telco people call data, but what it really means is how people use devices in the home has gone through the roof, and yet the pricing has been very constrained within the industry over quite a long period of time. Actually, I always used to talk about. Still can talk about. You look at price of inflation, and you look at the the telco industry, and you can see that there's if for like, effectively, we've been flat in pricing, whereas inflation's been through the roof. So there's no doubt there's been massive innovations, and in fact, people's money has been spent on other things, smart TVs, in-home devices that we provide services to.
And is the network? How would you say that? Obviously, the network's obviously a work in progress all the time.
Always.
Improvements. How can it get better? And what areas can you see where maybe Optus can improve?
Well, we will continue to build out 5G across the nation. We've done about 8 and 10 at this stage, but we'll continue to build out 5G, and then that 5G itself will evolve into things like network slicing, where you can actually in areas where there is a need to have a clear lane of traffic yourself, you can provide that to people. So whether people are at a sports event, for example, lots of people, they'll be able to ensure that they have
pay for priority style.
For priority, yeah. Or a coach at a game is able to make sure they get the statistics, through this priority lane, if you like. But also, network smarts are getting continue to evolve. AI will make that evolve even more, so that you're able to see where you can improve the network before a customer may have an experience or experience that's not as good as they'd like. So always ensuring that we evolve our capability of network, but also, if you like, the back end, so that you are able to put capacity where it's needed, or you're able to fix a fault before it actually becomes apparent to a customer. Those prioritizing our network and experience is key to that emotional experience I talked about earlier. Not that people are emotional about a network, but they're emotional if they can't, their call drops out or whatever.
Yeah.
Does the average punter, does the average customer, obviously there's customers who they're doing speed tests and everything, but does the average customer even need 5G in their daily life? And are we selling too many people far much more data in their plan than they even need? Like, I just worry that, especially in the competitive space, it's easier to market a $60 plan versus the competitor's $60 plan is having 200 gigabytes of data. And I've hammered him.
He's
over
data
the years
shamed me in the past
because he spends money on data he's never going to use.
Yeah, he's data shamed me a couple of times.
Well, most plans are unlimited. Most plans are unlimited these days. But in terms of speed, I think if you go back years and years ago, you'd say, do you need more than 1 gig, 2 gig, and
when I travel, I do.
But also, do you need, surely, 6 megabits per second is sufficient. And now you look in people, when you look at the concurrency of devices being used at the same time, if you think about a home, people are using multiple devices at once, all of which are increasingly having greater need for data. Whether you go to wearable glasses or whatever it may be in the future, you're going to have more and more hungry data devices concurrently using data, which means that people will need higher and higher speeds. So over time, the need for speed will continue to grow. There's no doubt about that.
Need for speed. That's a good little catchphrase.
Do you think the next evolution of mobile networks, call it 6G if we want, I don't really want to even contemplate it because I feel like we've only just had 5G, but do you think it's going to be further away than 5G was from 4G? Because 5G has delivered and it's great, but I think it's more than what the average consumer needs, and therefore it's built for a longer term?
I think it's too early to say. I mean, a lot of it will be electronics, I think, rather than necessarily a completely building new network in. Right. To be some of that, but a lot of it will be electronics in it. But it's too early to say, Trevor. I think it's the question is, does technology ever reach its limit? And I think history tells you it doesn't. Technology will continue to evolve. The AI, quantum computing, the splurge of data centers as a result, it's just going to continue on, I think.
You mentioned AI. Can you maybe go into a little bit of how it can improve not only the network but the company overall?
Well, I think of AI actually in terms of customer experience. I genuinely do, because I think if you think about the ability for to be able to provide better answers quicker, to be able for customers to self-diagnose things. Again, I talked about networks earlier, to be able to use AI in networks, to be able to give better information to staff so that they're able to you use that information to diagnose things better for consumers, to have the ability to serve customers advertising on new products that they need rather than just not that they need, that they may need, other than just a mass marketing. All of those things is better for customer experience, and obviously there's a part of that will enable our company to be better and to be able to be more productive, and that in terms allows us to continue to invest in business for consumers.
I've just got one more question about the business, and another thing we hear about too is the people trying to get through the call centres. And it's often you ring in someone who's not in Australia, you sometimes can't understand them. Is there a move in your tenure here to maybe bring some of that back to Australia, or to improve the whole thing overall?
I think again what I'm focused on is the systems and processes, but also you talk about the smarts, that whether it be AI or automation that you can put into these processes. The first thing you want to do is say, why are people calling call centres?
Yeah.
I mean, are they may be calling because they want to buy something from you, but if they're calling because they've got an issue, we've either not communicated to them in a way that they've been able to use, or they actually have a challenge that they want to get resolved. So the first thing for me is, why are people calling in call centres, and how can we make that, if they are calling, a better experience? Yes, but how do we give them the tools to not necessarily need to do that? Or how can you take the main reasons why people call out of the system and fix again those systems and processes so they don't need to do that? And then it's a case of how do you then improve the capability and again the smarts in call centres to do that, rather than go down first go down the track that you talked about. It's, why do people need to call in the first place, and let's take that out of the system.
Let's talk about home broadband. You are in a rather unique position to have a lot of knowledge of the national broadband network.
Just a bit.
Yet you are also now the head of a business that directly competes. And I think for the average consumer, they don't really see this and understand it, but the big three telcos with mobile networks are competing with the NBN because, in simple terms, if you're willing to pay $70 or $80 to Optus for home broadband, it's better for Optus that you're on 4G or 5G connectivity because you cop the whole $80. Whereas if they choose to be on a fibre to the premises, HFC or otherwise, you take 80 and you have to give NBN 55 or 60 or something. How are you measuring up that? It's not a conflict because you're allowed to have knowledge, but is that a big part of growing the bottom line, the profit? Because bringing more people to 5G is good for Optus' bottom line.
I think it's a part, certainly. I mean, I'm not conflicted at all, and I need to make sure that our customers and that our business is successful customers, also successful for shareholders, obviously. There are parts of a mobile network where there is capacity that can be used to provide broadband for people at home. There's no doubt about that. But you also need to have the ability to, firstly, you got to make sure though that you prioritise mobile, because at the end of the day, people want mobile services.
Yep.
But where there is capacity, there's absolutely an opportunity to do that. We already have over 200,000 customers on a 5G or a 4G, and we will continue. We continue to look at areas where we can serve, and it's good for customers that we serve those areas with those technologies. But again, you got to make sure that the amount that people use on their home broadband is way more than they use on the mobile.
Yes.
So you got to make sure that you don't in any way destroy experience for people on the mobile network as you do that. So it's quite a nuanced approach to do that. But is it an opportunity? Of course it is. You
mentioned shareholders, and we have to rewind a little bit because when you talk about the data breach and the network outage, there was a lot of talk outside of Optus, rightly or wrongly, that the problem with the communication and some of the problems that Kelly faced as CEO were because Singtel was making decisions. Singtel was vetting everything that went out. But I understand that when you joined, you kind of got a better a better run from Singtel? Is it a different system? Do you answer them on a daily basis, or have you come to an agreement where you can run this business for Australians, for the staff and employees, and just give them their quarterly results?
Well, I can't comment on the past because I wasn't here, but we do have a local board that obviously has directors and indeed the group chief executive of Moon from Singtel on our board. The governance are therefore structure means that a lot of decision making is done at that board level, but clearly there are things that I need to talk to the Singtel board about and Singtel management about. But the relationship between myself and Singtel couldn't be better. I mean, Singtel been incredibly supportive, incredibly helpful, there is. I can only be complimentary about the Optus as part in the Singtel group. Optus are really an important part of the Singtel group, and Singtel want Optus to be super successful, and they've clearly, it's their decision, but they've hired me to ensure that we have a business going forward that is customer focused, but also providing good shareholder returns to Singtel. But I couldn't be more complimentary of Singtel actually.
Growing the mobile business is probably, I actually don't understand or know how big each part is, but I'm assuming mobile's massive. Home broadband is pretty big, but then business and enterprise is probably bigger than the home stuff. But in terms of the average customer, again, the average consumer in Australia, I feel that most Aussies, with respect, are loyal and lazy. And that's neither of those things are good for them, because if they're stupidly loyal to a telco, whichever one it is, they're probably not getting the best value. If they're lazy, they're not willing to ring up and ask. So for people that are, stuck in a rut with another telco, they're your opportunity is to grow your business. What is your pitch to them? What's your pitch to people listening now, or people who are just stuck in that rut? Why make the change? What is the incentive for someone to pick up and either make a call, grab a SIM, or go to a store?
Well, a few things. Firstly, there's lots of new Australians come into Australia every year, and there's lots of students that come into Australia every year. So there is we are a growing population, and therefore there is a growing.
That's why the signs at the airport, Stephen.
Signs at the airport are excellent. I say everybody should.
Every gang. What are the bridge gang? The gates.
It's it.
So, but obviously most people have been here. So the real choice I talked about is the answer to your question. Giving people the products and services that they deserve, being on the customer side, not take customers for granted, ensuring that customers know that when they need you, you are there, and having the products, again, what you're talking about earlier, that actually goes to multiple segments of the marketplace. But people, if you are a good corporate citizen, you're seen as really being there for customers. That is how customers can have faith in you and can decide to make that decision. But it's also to switch, for example. It's also about providing value to people. It's why we do things like better together campaigns, which is bundling things together. It's ensuring that we provide value to customers and that they have good. There's a reason to go to Optus, but also reason to really stay because I know these guys are on my side. That's true in the consumer world. It's very much true in the enterprise and small business world, where they more than anything want to have a telco retailer service provider on their side working with them as a partner and being there when they need it, or being able to bring other partners in to help them build the business. So one of the things that we've been doing in the enterprise space is ensuring we're partnering with other people so that people who are skilled in ICT services, rather than pretending a telco is good at that, bringing in ICT people to assist, those sort of things. So it's about relationships and it's about customer focus.
Well, got to like just change gears slightly here, Stephen.
We're going to talk. We've had a massive data breach. We've had a massive network outage. Now we're going to talk about you getting the wooden spoon.
No, not this.
And him being a storm man.
Well, no. Well,
you know what? Take a Three Blokes Talking. You can have two Stephens talking football.
Many people may not know that you back in the day were the CEO of the Melbourne Storm.
Chairman.
Chairman, but at quite a turbulent time too, when there was the salary cap breach. So you're no stranger to handling dramas in the workspace. Take us back to that time and how you handled that. You've now that's part of your toolkit now in your current role.
Yeah, look, it was. I remember going to visit the Storm. I had quite a background in rugby league, not only watching rugby league with my grandfather in Ireland, which not many Irish boys sat with their grandfather watching rugby league, but I knew the game really well. And when I came to Australia, I lived not far from North Sydney Oval, so I used to go and watch the Bears play. Then I was involved in Super League. I used to work at Super League.
Luckily, we put a buffer zone between you two.
I used to work.
I was working in New Zealand during Super League too, mate, and I was actually a former Souths man, so it was a bit of a conflict there for me.
Well, I used to go to work at Super League and go and watch the Bears play at the weekend, so that was always interesting.
You probably watched my brother play.
I did watch your brother play. Indeed, I did. That team of Jason Taylor and Matt Sears and all those players, but I was then involved in Super League, and for a while was actually on the board of both Canberra Raiders and North Queensland Cowboys, by the way. But then as part of my News Limited obligations, but post the salary cap, when the salary cap had been announced, I remember the first day I went to the club. I think it was July 2010. I think it was July, and they were devastated. You know, here was coaching staff, players. Put their in player sense put their bodies on the line every day. I don't need to tell you, Steve. And now they were playing for no points that year, and they'd had previous. Some of them, not all of them, had been in the club that long, but some had premierships taken off them. You had coaching staff who were, also quite devastated and trying to work out what on earth we're going to do going forward. Staff who were, didn't know their future, and then you had sponsors wondering what was going on, and a relationship back with the NRL that needed to be repaired, frankly, which was, I guess, understandable.
Talk about crisis management.
So really, not so much we. I mean, Ron Gorsey, who's the CEO, did a lot of the management heavy lifting. Of course, he did, but Craig Bellamy and Frank Panisi are just extraordinary during that period of time, as were some of the senior players, in bringing people together, and in having plans for how they would overcome the emotion, but also how they would rebuild the club going forward. I think I'm right in saying 11 players left at the time. So you can, you've been involved in rugby league, you know how much that takes a hole in the club.
Yeah.
That's like the South Sydney injured list.
And then some.
This is all. You just talk to me, don't mind. So I mean, what I wanted to make sure happened was that it wasn't going to happen again. So I mean, as a chairman, you actually signed a stat deck on the salary cap. So I took that, as you'd expect, very seriously, and made sure that we were going to be under the salary cap going forward, but at the same time giving people hope for the future and assuring them that, again, it was owned by News Limited, that News Limited were not going to walk away, and we're going to make sure the club was going to be successful. So it was about, again, repairing relationships, but also about helping and giving people hope and allowing people like Craig and Frank to make decisions on players while making sure we're in the salary cap. But those guys were incredible. There's no surprise the club has continued to be successful with the not just the culture, but those two guys at the helm.
You still follow them on, no doubt, eh? You keep a close eye.
Well, how does that conflict going to work with the Bears coming into the comp?
Yes, good question.
Talk about conflicts.
I was the chairman for for almost 3 years. But I managed to find a guy called Bart Campbell who bought the club, and the club has gone, onto greater and greater times. But there were times. Obviously, we won a grand final. You didn't ask me that, but we won a grand final in
several
2012.
grand finals. When you were chairman, right.
But actually, my happiest moment at the Storm games were dressing sheds afterwards when the wives and girlfriends and kids would come into the sheds, and what the Storm had built and what the salary cap challenges helped them build even more was a real family feel around the club and a real community, and a lot of the players' wives and girlfriends had actually a lot to do with rebuilding the club.
Absolutely.
Watching guys who've just literally 10 minutes come off the field belting each other, lifting each other's children and playing with kids, it's just, they won most times, so that obviously helped, but that sort of feeling in the club, so that really taught me. I've said this to Craig all the time. You've taught me a lot, and he goes, he doesn't quite believe me. But the team building that they do, clear accountability, but clear support for people, but clear team building, is something that I've carried through. Definitely my learnings from the Melbourne Storm.
But will you be at Perth for the first game of the Bears?
Well, we have,
Optus Stadium.
Yeah, but they're not going to play there, are they?
Maybe the first game.
They might play the first, you think? Big enough?
I don't know.
Think they get a big enough crowd?
No, I think unfortunately for the Bears, I've become a Storm fan for life.
It's on the key ring, that's enough.
Storm man.
It is on the key ring, actually.
I've seen your key ring.
It is on the key ring. I have in one of my rooms at home, I have an Everton jersey and a Melbourne Storm jersey.
We make no bones about the fact that we're not the hardest workers in the room. We've got pretty good lives.
Speak for yourself, mate.
Oh, get over it. What have you done today?
I wrote a couple of stories. I did a bit of work.
I did a
radio interview.
I pretty much waited for my alarm to go off to come here. So we lead pretty good lives. We've gotten to a point in life where we work for ourselves. We manage our days and our weeks. But as Optus CEO, I mean, it must be an always-on event. You've obviously got a very supportive family. What does Stephen Rue do to switch off, but not off entirely, because obviously you've still got to be
You're on call, so to speak.
Should a call come? What other than watching footy?
Well, actually, I'm a complete sports tragic, I'm afraid. So, in fact, most of my
You're in good company.
Apart from walking my dogs and having family and time with family and dinners and occasionally reading, but my greatest love in life is sports. So I don't get to as many sports events as I'd like to. When I was involved in rugby league, I was at games all the time. I still try to go to games when I can, but I do watch a lot of sport and talk a lot about sport as well, to tell you the truth. So
nothing wrong with that. Mate. Nothing wrong with that.
Former
sports editor over here, the Telegraph.
I know.
You lived it and still do. Still, my passion for sport hasn't changed. Neither has yours, by the sounds of it.
No, it hasn't. So whether it's watching Premier League or whether it's Formula One, I do watch a lot of rugby league.
F1, hello. Yeah. Biggest fan of the world over here.
I love Formula One. So,
right.
Will we get you to Bathurst to cheer on the Optus team?
Yes, I have been to see Optus team, but actually it was at the Melbourne Grand Prix though. But,
of course.
But I'm a huge F1 fan. But I can be occasionally seen watching England play India cricket, for example. So if there are sports, I love it. Yeah. I even watch darts. I'm a huge fan of darts.
There's a big darts tournament about to happen in Australia. I keep seeing Fox promoting it.
Is Optus going to sponsor it, perhaps?
Don't maybe not. But don't tell anyone. But I've actually been at that Wollongong event to watch the darts.
Do you know what?
On two occasions.
During COVID,
keep that to yourself.
I don't know how we came across it, but we found darts on the TV, so we would watch it with the kids. It's actually
great,
pretty entertaining stuff. And you know what, for kids, great for maths.
Colourful, very colourful.
Because
those guys are good.
There's a lot of maths involved. Imagine commentating darts and having to work out how many points they're going to get in the next throw. I think it's phenomenal.
Oh, Luke Littler, of course, rules the world these days in darts. He's an 18-year-old. He might be 19 now.
I've seen him show up. They've been promoting it massive on Fox.
He's here in Australia, but that just shows you if it's it's a sports competition, I'm pretty
you're
keen
in.
to watch it. Don't like horse racing, but most other things I'll watch.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same.
So you're not sponsoring the Melbourne Cup anytime soon, then, by the sounds of it, eh? All right.
Let's throw a logo on the McLaren team so we can get involved in it.
We want to go to Vegas. Bring us to Vegas.
Sorry, I was thinking Melbourne, but yeah, let's go to Vegas. Is there some US
F1,
network deal we can do
please.
over there?
Yeah, but I occasionally read as well. But
You're a reader, so you're what, non-fiction, fiction. What's your jam?
I do read a lot of books on psychology, philosophy, that sort of thing. Okay. Believe it or not, but
Stephen doesn't, and I've never read a book of my life.
I'm a big reader.
I'm a big student of psychology. Both my daughters did psychology in uni, interestingly.
Oh, wow.
But I have recently read a few more fiction books.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as a blatant cross promotion for one of our other shows, the best movies you've never seen. Best movie of all time?
Yeah. What's your favourite movie you've seen?
Oh dear, you're going to tell people this answer.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
There's a movie called Flying High. That's always
we've done that on the show.
Absolutely.
Love that movie.
Or Airplane is which I think is the funniest movie of all time.
Agree.
I have to say.
We've done that on our show.
We have
Naked Gun is the other one.
I was going to say, so does that lead you into the Naked Gun, and will you be watching the new one?
Liam Neeson, the new version coming out.
I did not know there was another one.
There's a new one, Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, and we are doing the Naked Gun on the best movies you've never seen, just in time for the new movie to come out.
I just think their sense of humour, for some reason, clicks with my sense of humour.
Sometimes you've
Stop
just
calling
got to
me
have a laugh.
and don't call me Shirley. Yeah.
Or walking out of a room through the set when that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Hospital, what is it? It's a big building with patients. Love it. No, that's a good choice. I love that movie too.
I appreciate you spending some time with us. You've obviously doing great things with Optus. The team seem relaxed and happy to be here. You've got a lot of new people. There's a lot of people who were here back in the day who I think now see a new vision, which is what they need. They need leadership. A company like this needs leadership, and I feel like you're bringing that to the company. And
they're
that's
in good
probably
hands.
The best thing.
No, you're very kind. Thank you very much. It's been fun.
And the last thing I would say, actually, is with the NBN, and I think it doesn't get enough credit, is the NBN gets a lot of rubbish, as you well know, from people that hate it. But let's just all remember how it got us through COVID, and you were there at that time pushing, innovations and things that happened just to make it work for people. And I think it really is going to go down as one of the biggest moments
with flying colours
in Australia. Is that our national broadband got us through COVID because we had to work from home, school from home, and you're in charge of then. So hopefully, Optus can have that same.
Thank you. That was a really important moment actually, and we put a lot of with NBN and the retails put a lot of capacity in the network very quickly, worked together like never before. And within a couple of weeks, people had almost seamless experience at home. Yet the capacity surged. It was quite a remarkable time. I remember at the time asking my team to find out what had happened in Lombardy, because Lombardy had gone. It was one of the first European towns, I think, that went into lockdown.
Right.
And the answer was capacity grew 33% overnight. So that was actually the genesis of why. It was one of those 2-second decisions that you make on one piece of data that we're going to put 40% additional capacity in our network and not charge for it. And as a result, and everybody did it. The retailers all did it. NBN did it. And I think capacity grew to 34-35% at its peak. And because of that, actually, we ended up with people being able to not just work from home, but talk to people overseas who are obviously worried about not seeing each other. So
I think it's a career moment you should be very proud of, and I think you'll take with you for a very long time.
No, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Stephen.
Cheers.
Love you to have you.